like bust these myths. Call me a ghostbuster, mythbuster. Hey guys, my name is Royina. I have type 1 diabetes and welcome back to my channel. I know that I said I'll be putting up videos every week and I haven't been doing that in the past. I know it's been a bit irregular, but I'm just trying to manage my work, my diabetic management and shooting YouTube videos. So while getting that on track, please bear with me while I try to figure this stuff out. But I promise I'm trying my best to start putting videos up on a regular basis. So without further ado, this week's video is about myths about type 1 diabetes that need to stop being propagated. And maybe these are unique to India, but these are things that I've certainly heard a lot, either from other people or from experiences of other type 1 diabetics themselves. And what I've found is that these myths are not propagated by the families of the type 1 diabetics or even the type 1 diabetics themselves. It's the concerned neighbor, the close friend who wants to help you out. These people who actually go out and say these things, and sometimes it can be really hurtful because, people who you consider family, they saying these things to you or about your condition can be hurtful, but that's why I've made this video. Okay, so I just want to talk about what these myths are and why they really don't hold true. So without further ado, let's just talk about them. The number one thing, I've got all of the myths busted into my little notebook over here. So, number one thing is type 1 diabetes is caused because of an unhealthy lifestyle, and I can't tell you how untrue this is because I think I talk about this in almost every single video. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition, which means that your immune system attacks itself and destroys its pancreas. And it doesn't happen because you're on an unhealthy diet. It doesn't happen mostly because type 2 diabetes runs in your family. It can happen to anyone. You get a viral, you fall sick, and before you know it, your pancreas are gone. And that's just how it is, and that's all it is. So blaming the type 1 diabetic for a condition that they have is not true. And while we are on this subject, I don't understand why we should shame anyone with a chronic condition, even if it's type 2 diabetes, even if it is caused by an unhealthy diet or lifestyle. Shaming someone for a chronic condition and saying that it is their fault and blaming them for it is never correct, because nobody chooses to have a condition, no matter what type of lifestyle they live. No one's going out there and saying, oh, I'm doing this so that I fall sick. No one's saying that. So why do you want to blame the other person? You should be empathetic about the fact that they are dealing with something on a day-to-day basis and just move on with their life. Not to be rude or anything, but yeah, so not true. It is an autoimmune condition. So the second one, which I heard from someone else actually, as of type 1 diabetics are often told by their friends and neighbors that they should not allow their child to study in school anymore, and that they can't go to normal school, they can't participate in normal activities. For example, they can't become athletes in high school, they won't be able to give exams as well, they won't be able to study as well. And this again is really untrue, because yes, while they might have to do a little bit of extra work in management of their blood sugar while studying or while participating in activities, that's all it is limited to. There's nothing, it doesn't require any extra effort because of that, and you can't not do something because of type 1 diabetes. So again, this is a myth that I truly feel should not be propagated. Why should someone not be given the chance to study or follow their passion because they're type 1 diabetic? That makes no sense. Another one which I've heard is that type 1 diabetics shouldn't really travel, and again, this is, I don't know why this is something that people believe. Yes, you have a chronic condition, but that doesn't mean that you can't travel. You just, again, like, you carry your insulin, you have your blood glucose monitor, you monitor your blood sugar the entire time. While traveling, you take those extra precautions, but as long as you're managing your blood sugar, I don't see why it is not safe for type 1 diabetics to travel. So huge one in India is that type 1 diabetics can't get married, and I've heard this actually from someone who reached out to me on Instagram, and they were asking me if their kid could get married or not because they have type 1 diabetes, and I was so shocked because I don't understand why this should be a make or break factor in how someone lives their life. Being type 1 diabetic doesn't mean that you can't date anymore, doesn't mean you can't get married. And in fact, my doctor even told me that there's no risk of me giving it to my kid if I choose to have children. So this myth of like you can't get married, you can't have kids, it's so stupid. You're stopping someone from again living their life because of a condition, and that's not true. That's not even necessary. So it's certainly not something that should be followed. Type 1 diabetics can get married, they can date, they can have lots of sex, they can do the same things anyone else can do. Another one which I've heard quite often in India is that type 1 diabetics shouldn't take insulin because insulin is not natural, and they should look at other ways of managing their condition, or they should stop insulin and just diet and exercise is enough to manage this condition. Both of these things are not true. Insulin is not unnatural in this sense. Your body doesn't produce insulin, you're simply supplementing it over here. For example, if you have vitamin deficiency, you take a multivitamin tablet, that doesn't mean that it's unnatural. You're taking it because your body doesn't have this, so, and you're supplementing your supply. It's the same thing with insulin, and the option is either to use synthetic insulin, or if you take like insulin from how they used to earlier from animals. I mean, you could use either source, but the fact is you need it. Just diet and exercise is not enough to manage the condition in this case. You do need insulin to regulate the condition too. So why do you want to say this to another type 1 diabetic or to their parents and then make them feel weird about doing something that is necessary for their survivals? Definitely a myth that should not be propagated anymore. Another one which I think almost every type 1 diabetic has heard is that there is a cure. And to be honest, in the beginning when people used to tell me this, I used to get very upset and angry. I used to get upset because it was just a constant reminder of how there's no cure as of now, and it used to make me feel hopeless sometimes, because before this, like every time I fell ill, it was something that could be cured, a cold, a fever, a viral. But to have something that doesn't have a cure, and to know that you may have to live with this for the rest of your life, it is painful enough without someone coming in telling you again and again that there's a cure. And if this was true, okay, let's say that if there was a cure, why wouldn't everyone be using it? Why would someone choose to have a chronic illness, or why would someone choose to have type 1 diabetes if there was a cure? They wouldn't. So I think that to constantly go to a type 1 diabetic and then say there's a cure and to suggest some ridiculous idea is something that should not be done. And if you meet someone with a chronic illness, please do not lead with how you think that there's a cure for this. I'm pretty sure they've done their own research, and unless, like I said in my previous videos, unless you personally have cured someone with this or know someone who has been cured with this condition with proven results, do not give all of this unsolicited advice, because so many people are not educated enough in order to make the distinction between what is scientific or actual medical advice and what is, just suggestions from people. And because of that, children die of this condition every single day in our country. And is that something you want to be responsible for, the death of someone else because they followed your advice that was not verified? No. Why do you want to have that burden on your shoulders? Don't suggest something unless you know it is absolutely 100% true and proven. Another myth that I've heard is that hypers and hypo treatment is just an opinion, but it is not a necessity. Again, I don't know where these ideas come from. You must treat hypers and hypos. It is necessary. Hypos or low blood sugar can lead to a diabetic coma or even death. It is very dangerous if someone's blood sugar goes below 70, and it needs to be treated immediately with about 15 grams of carbohydrates, fast acting carbohydrates. So that means either 1/4 of a box of juice or 1/4 of a glass of Coke, like proper Coke, not diet Coke or Coke Zero, or with about 3 to 4 glucose tablets. Then you need to wait 15 minutes, check again, see if your blood sugar has gone up. If not, treat again. And then once your blood sugar has finally gone up, you need to follow this with a small snack. And this is necessary to do in case someone's blood sugar drops. Yeah, I've heard people saying that, like, I know someone who's type 1 diabetic, and sometimes they feel really dizzy and they're not able to, they get confused, they're sweating and they're not able to walk. They're having a hypo, you need to treat it. And same thing with hypers or really high blood sugar. That means that your blood sugar is over 180, that needs to be treated. You need to, and again, not if you've just exercised, but if this is otherwise, like, because if when you just exercise, your blood sugar tends to go up because a lot of glucose is dumped by the liver. But not immediately after exercise, but any other time when your blood sugar is over 180 and it is constantly staying at that number, say 200 or 350, you need to correct it, which means you need to take that adjustment dose of insulin. And this is necessary because if you allow blood sugar to stay really high for long periods of time, it can cause kidney failure, it can cause blindness, it can cause neuropathy. You don't want these conditions to develop later in life. So treating hypos and hypers is a must, it is not an opinion. Last ones are something which I've just come across recently. I think the ones are first, that type 1 diabetics can't hold a steady job or a high pressure job or any sort of job which involves a lot of work, long hours, etc. Again, not true. They can do something anyone else can. Of course, everyone should have a healthy work-life balance, but type 1 diabetics can hold the same jobs as anyone else. Here's the thing, right? A lot of type 1 diabetics I have met, they hide their condition. And why? Because of the final myth that is type 1 diabetics are given special concessions because of their condition. And this is so frustrating and silly because they are not given special concessions for their condition. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. At least in my experience, there have been cases where I have been discriminated against because of having type 1 diabetes, or I've not been treated the same as they would treat someone without the condition. For example, when I'm in a plane, whenever I take out my injection to take a shot of insulin before I have to eat, I've had people lean away and like sit away from me like during the entire flight, which is great because I get some personal space, but they're noticeably doing that, and sometimes it's really upsetting because I'm not going to give you an injection by mistake. You're not going to get it if you touch me, so why would you act like that? And there was this one time I was flying back from Thailand to India, and I was taking my injection, and the guy sitting next to me actually waved to his friends who were sitting 3 rows ahead of us and asked them to turn around and look at me taking the injection. And that was so weird. It was so weird. I didn't really say anything because I didn't know what to say, and I'd never been in a situation like that before. But that has been my experience of living day to day with type 1 diabetes. And when I hear people say that because of your condition you must get a lot of special concessions from people and you must get treated extra nice and you must have a lot of benefits, that's not true. In fact, I found type 1 diabetics work, or actually anyone with a chronic condition works twice as hard as anyone else because they have to overcome this stigma associated with their condition. So why do you want to say this to someone and discount their success and hard work? It's not fair and it's not true. So those are some of the myths, and as you can see, I feel very, very, very passionately about this simply because I just don't think that it is correct to blame someone for having a condition, make them feel shitty because they have a condition, or make them feel like they are getting all the benefits in the world when they're not, and discounting the hard work and effort they're putting in on a day-to-day basis. And what I absolutely cannot stand is when people are not allowed to have the same opportunities as anyone else because other individuals think that their condition inhibits them from doing so when it doesn't. So if you like this video, do remember to give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos on a weekly basis. And please share this video because it can help us raise so much more awareness about type 1 diabetes, and you can help save the lives of other people, and you can help improve the quality of life in India. So why not do that? So don't forget to share, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.